So yeah, the what we tend to do at the beginning is just ask who you are, where you're from, get a bit of information from there, and then we'll just lead in. So if you give us a bit about yourself, and then we'll kick off from there.
Good. So my name is Johnnie Calitz. I'm the head winemaker at Glen Carlou now for the last 9 years. And my journey started at a small town, or in a small town called Calitzdorp. Dorp is basically the Afrikaans word for town.
Mm-hmm.
My name being Johnnie Calitz, 4th generation. So this is a small agricultural town where I grew up. My family had a mixed bag, a fruit basket of agricultural activities.
Yeah.
Apricots, peaches, plums, and wine grapes and table grapes. And basically, it all started there. My dad attempted making wine. And I remember this was probably the most terrible wine I tasted. And then we used to sell it in 1 liter, 2 liter, and 5 liter plastic. And this wine, I remember that was in the 90s, probably about £1 for 5 liter.
Wow.
So on weekends we used to be involved in making the wine, bottling the wine, and selling. And so back then, between harvest and being able to actually sell the wine, there was a gap where, before they come to take account for all the liters and production you've had, the vintage, where you could have sold some wine without paying duties. So I remember this, where my dad used to fill these 25 liter drums. People would come and buy in bulk for weekend, for functions and all that. It's terrible. But I mean, these plastic drums, they tend to leave outside. Obviously, locals having a party, and these plastic, we used to call them swart varkie, which is translated to black pig. Black plastic 25 liter polycan with a white cap. And in the sun, they used to obviously swell up, starting to look like a pig. But then the later on, the customers liked that, because the 25 liter was not 25 liters anymore. It became 27 liters. So they got a bargain. So that was my first interaction with wine. Not really into the quality and the premium side. Never drank Bordeaux or Burgundies. Not at all. It was basically, back then, it was either rebate wine, which was distilling wine, and bulk. So, being intrigued by the process, I went to study in Stellenbosch University. It's a 4-year degree where you focus on winemaking and viticulture. And after finishing there, I went to New Zealand, Australia, did a couple of harvests in France. And that's where it basically all started, the experience. My first winemaking permanent position, I was at a company for 10 years. And at the moment, Glen Carlou, I've been there for almost 10. So it takes quite a while to understand the vineyards, the winemaking processes, each site and each company, each style is specific. So it takes a while to get to know your surroundings, your soils, and what makes it special. And so it's been quite a journey in terms of what Glen Carlou has been known for, and where we are today. We're a lot more focused in terms of what we plant and the idea, or the vision where we want to be in the years to come. Stylistically, I think worldwide, many critics has changed what they expect in a wine, but I always say that you need to be true to where the wine is from. You can't really change that. So if you are able to tell the story and people understand the effort and the people involved in making it, that is where that essence comes from. You get to taste not only a product that you expect the same every year, but you understand the vintage, you understand the variety, you understand the fact that this was intentional to keeping this separate, and it's a process that evolved into making what it is today. And so I'm always wary of criticizing a wine, because it can be circumstances, but there's a lot of effort and a lot of work that goes into making wine. It's a long-term process, from planting to end product, and obviously after that there's a aging.
That's actually really interesting that you say it, because we would speak to a lot of whiskey producers in this format, and it is legally, it's a 3-year process at minimum, and it's got to either extend beyond that or hit that point. So it's always going to be a long-term process. And I think a lot of people don't understand that wine is a very delayed process as well. It's only really for people who have the vision to see beyond, okay, yes, you have a handful of grapes and then you have a bottle of wine, but it takes a certain type of person with a certain ethic to be able to go between those two things, because it is another extended method, really. And I don't think a lot of people grasp that in the same way that you see that, because whiskey's legally bound to be in a 3-year-old product at least, that it's interesting, I think, that to get that across to people.
So to put it in perspective, the wines we have in front of me, the Gravel Quarry 2021 vintage has only been my 4th vintage. In terms of, this is what I can relate to, what I've done, but I've been at the company for almost 10 years.
Yes, that's a good point.
So it's a yearly reset, and you only have one chance to learn, but also then to change anything. And you don't want to make any drastic changes in terms of stylistic, or you need to understand. So you want to marginally make it better without compromising. So. And that's the only way to learn. I mean, you can have all the education, and I've done a WSET 4 equivalent, Cape Wine Academy, what we call a diploma, and many harvests overseas, and many tasting certifications. But if you don't work with the wine and understand where it's from, you can never really grasp the true quality and expression. So that's why it's important to talk about, and for us as winemakers to convey that message. Not only to taste the wine, but you need to explain where this was from, why it's being done that way.
What qualities and what sort of personality does the origin lend then to your, not necessarily specifically your products, we will get to them, but to obviously from where you are and South Africa in general? Because I always say that we will get a lot of people coming to us asking specifically for Old World or New World, and usually when it's New World, it's probably Australia, New Zealand. And if it's New Zealand, I then try to push them towards South Africa, because they'll find a lot of similarities, but there's always a nice twist or a difference or a unique quality that comes through that you won't get from other countries. It's never a specific one, but you'll always find that there's something familiar, but it's done in a new kind of way. I always find. What, in your opinion, having been in that, what is the identity of South African wine in general, and then how does that translate into what you're producing as well?
So the winelands, the Cape winelands, is quite concentrated around Cape Town, but we follow a similar concept to the Old World in terms of the origin, the wine of origin. Yeah. So if we call a Chardonnay, we have a 15% scope for blending something else in. Same with vintage. Mm-hmm. But if a wine says that's from, we are situated in Aimonsberg-Paarl, which is a small ward within a bigger region. Yeah. So it's about the location, and that's quite important. I think important demarcation, which was done many years ago, keeping the origin separate, because South Africa is such a diverse country. But even concentrated around Cape Town, there's so many, because it's quite hilly and mountainous. It can be quite diverse. Yeah. So our appellations are very small in terms of classification, and that has helped us creating identity of also where the wine is from and what does it give you. So we are certified Aimonsberg-Paarl, but from the wines we have in front of you, 2 of them are certified single vineyard. So that status basically it guarantees that the grapes used in that wine is only coming from one specific parcel. So that's rigorously followed from picking to the end product. And we have on the bottle, we have got a certification seal that basically certifies the wine is what it says on the label, and it is from that origin and certified as such. So I've worked in New Zealand and Australia, and quite fond of their wines. They are quite efficient in the way how they operate, quite unique in style. I think it's quite similar to South Africa, but in terms of I think our diversity, we have adapted and made our brands the important following for international customers. So there's like there's a couple of people will follow, not only, for instance, the region, but also the trade, the brand itself. So that was where we found internationally we into the market. It was quite sound in terms of they know Glen Carlou, they know it's a Chardonnay producer, it's consistent, it's strong locally, and it's got a good following. And in recent years, the Cabernet Sauvignon has done the same.
And what then? So we've got 2 of each, haven't we?
Two of each. So just a quick explanation on the wines. So as I mentioned, Chardonnay and Cab focused. The green label Chardonnay, you can reference this to the Springboks winning the next World Cup. The green and gold. We refer to as the green label Chardonnay, and the grey label Cab Sauv. And these 2 wines is basically a blend of the Cab is about 11 different sites, mixed together, aged for about 16 months in oak, where the Chardonnay is from about 15 different sites. So that includes different clones, different ages of vine, different picking dates. So all fermented separately, and then mixed or blended together just before the end, just to build complexity, and then that's all put together. But all the components will, all the time, not even after these many years, I put them together, because you're still learning about that specific block, and now all of a sudden you see there might be differences. So you split your parcels of land in 2 or 3 to narrow it down. Is this clone better working with this soil? And remember, each year is you only have once a year to test and to take note of what it is producing. So the Chardonnay and the Cab is made in sort of a similar regime. It's a mix of different vineyard sites on the Aimonsberg mountain, and that just build complexity. So the Chardonnay is aged for 11 months in 25% new, second, third, and fourth fill. So all barrel fermented. Before the next vintage, we emptied out, obviously then tasted first, and then the blend will be made up, and then the barrels will become your first fill, or new barrels will become your second fill. And so we keep that regime going in terms of the barrels we use in the Chardonnay. We work with specific Burgundy coopers that we have been working for the last 20 years. It's quite important to have a relationship with your cooper because of that oak influence is important. You don't want to,
especially with Chardonnay.
Yes, you don't want it to overpower your wine, but it needs to fit your style. Cabernet Sauvignon, it goes into oak for 16 months, but for this wine we don't use any new oak, so it's only second, third fill. The new oak is mainly used for the Gravel Quarry and the Courtstone, which is majority new oak. The Courtstone Chardonnay, our single vineyard Chardonnay, and the Gravel Quarry Cabernet Sauvignon, which is our single vineyard cab. These will go in, as I mentioned, majority new oak. The Courtstone, about 11 to 12 months in oak, where this one spends 22 months.
Okay.
And that wood tannin just give you longevity.
Yeah.
You can age the wine. It's sealed with a tested natural cork made to age. Where the Chardonnay and the Cab Sav, I mean, the quality is exceptional for where it's playing. And that is part of the success. I think we don't call it our entry level wines and our top wines, because these two in some cases will even beat the other two
downstairs
because of preference.
Yeah, when between 5 or 6 of us we tried all 4 of them, somebody asked the question, what was your favorite? And there were differences between people, but I felt very much like each of them had its own purpose.
Exactly.
I find I'm not the kind of person to have too many favorites with things, but I felt very distinctly that they all had a time and a place and an appropriate sort of application.
Yeah.
And that's not something you come across very often. Sometimes it is very much a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in that order, whereas that was very much 4 distinct bottles of wine that all had 4 distinct personalities to me, which I was very, very impressed by. I thought was not something you come across very often at all.
So you have to remember that the big cost component on wine is oak.
Mm-hmm.
A new French oak barrel would cost you about 1,200 euros.
Right.
In South Africa, it's quite a big expense in terms of capital. And remember, these wines, as I mentioned, this was made in 2021. Big capital outlay. That wood has been bought in 2020 already. We're only selling the wine now. So that's a big part of the component of wine. And it doesn't necessarily say if a wine is more expensive, it's better. You have to remember that it is a subjective opinion. So I can't tell you which wine is better. It's up to you. And as you mentioned and rightfully said, it's about the occasion as well. The Courtstone Chardonnay and the Gravel Quarry is more about the purity. It's about keeping that origin separate, but also it's absolutely a food wine. So it will stand up in a fine dining surrounding, where I think where the other two wines is basically made to be consumed and enjoy now. The tannins are quite soft. So there's differences.
It feels like whenever you talk about identity as well, it feels a bit like an expression to me in a similar way, that you're almost going, this is what you can do with single vineyard versus this is what you can do with blends and things. And I find that to be just as interesting. And obviously then as a byproduct of that, you get the cost. So a single vineyard is going to be more expensive because, and that's not something I think that people are overly familiar with, is how those different dynamics come together. So that's actually probably the most eye-opening thing I've taken away today. The idea that you can express to people who are obviously interested in that sort of thing, you can express what is available when you take a certain approach. So I find that really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Just because I'm conscious you might have to be somewhere else, but to finish us off today, if I give you the example of that person who comes in and they like the New World, but they've not had South African before, what would you say to bring them to Glen Carlou?
Well, most importantly for us is each wine needs to over-deliver on what you're expecting. That's quite important. It needs to bring value. So when you taste the wine, you have to go, wow, this is something I haven't tasted before. And if you like it, the style, that is up to you. But coming back to my first point, we're not in the wine industry. We're not making Coca-Cola or Fanta. You don't want every vintage to taste the same. Stylistically, yes, but you have to understand, if you're a wine consumer, that it needs to be different. That is why we are in the industry.
It needs to. You don't want it to appeal to absolutely everybody as well. I think that's very important.
You can't please everybody.
But even aiming, I don't know. That's something I always say to people whenever I've recommended them a bottle. If you don't like that, it's a good thing, because then we can learn and we can grow in it. But even if I've never thought about it from the winemaking point of view, that you're going for something that you believe in, and not necessarily, like you're saying, like a Coke or a Fanta or an everybody thing. I quite like that.
Yeah, so as you rightfully said, you can't please everybody, and that's been the problem, I think, for the South African industry, is because we try to make wine to please the consumer, but that's evolving every single day. And if you're going that route, you're going to be caught at some point not focusing on what you're actually good at. Yeah. And that's what we've done in the last, say, 5-10 years, is there's really been a lot more focus to build the identity and to be better known for what we're good at. So we've done that. We've paid the school fees in terms of different varieties and different plantings, and trying to make everything. I mean, South Africa is popular for Chenin Blanc and Pinotage, but I don't have that on the table.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Because it doesn't work where we're at. So we want to showcase what works and what we found the best is for that area, and that's how you build identity, relationships, and a following for wine. And if somebody talks about Glen Carlou, they will remember that is a good Chardonnay. That was a good Cabernet Sauvignon, which I tasted. Yeah,
no, that's fantastic. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you want to leave anything with leave people with before we go, or you happy?
Yeah, well, I would say maybe if you don't remember what I said, just remember this: 7 days without wine makes 1 week.
That's excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you.